Hey everyone, tonight we're going to step into the quiet, unassuming life of a woman who did everything right. We're going to watch her build a wall of security brick by brick, only to see it dismantled by a phantom, a whisper on the internet. This isn't a story about a haunted house or a creature in the woods. It's about a predator who uses charm as a key and trust as a weapon, and the chilling part is that this kind of ghost is real. He could be in your inbox right now. This is a journey into a meticulously crafted labyrinth of digital lies, and a stark reminder that in the modern world, the most devastating monsters don't have claws, they have professional-looking websites. And a story like this, you might not survive this with your faith in humanity intact. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead and post your location and what time it is where you are. I love seeing where you're all listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe put on a fan for some gentle white noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. Sabine was not the kind of person you'd picture falling for an internet scam. She wasn't some tech-illiterate senior citizen clicking on a flashing banner that promised a free cruise. She was 51, a bookkeeper for a respectable mid-sized company in Hanover, and she knew her way around a balance sheet. Numbers were her native language. She'd started building her financial security early, smartly investing in ETFs and stocks. Her small condominium, a cozy little place that was all hers, had been paid off for years. She was the definition of prudent. But then came the whispers of cryptocurrency. It was a low hum at first, something her younger colleagues chattered about during coffee breaks. Then the hum became a roar. It was the autumn of 2021 and Bitcoin was surfing an all-time high. The media was a frenzy of stories about overnight millionaires, kids who'd bought a handful of digital coins for pennies and were now retiring at 25. Sabine felt a familiar, unsettling pang, the fear of being left behind. Was she really as old-fashioned as she sometimes felt, diligently managing her stock portfolio while a whole new digital gold rush was happening just beyond her grasp? So, on a dreary, rain-slicked November evening, with a cup of tea steaming on her kitchen table, Sabine finally Googled blockchain. She just wanted to understand the lingo, to feel a little less like a dinosaur. It was an act of simple curiosity, not a plan for reckless investment. The first YouTube video she clicked on was, well, perfect. A man in a sharp but not too flashy suit explained the basics. He spoke clearly, made no outlandish promises, and didn't shill for some obscure, ridiculous-sounding meme coin. He was just an educator. Sabine appreciated that. Finally, someone who could explain this complicated new world without making her feel like an idiot. Even the wisest merchants of antiquity knew you had to understand the trade routes before you sent your ship out. At the end of the video, a small, tastefully designed banner appeared. Free online course for beginners. Learn how to invest safely in cryptocurrency. The instructor's name was Adrian Kellner, 38 years old, a supposed graduate in business informatics, and an independent crypto consultant from Munich. His LinkedIn profile was polished, his company website a masterpiece of corporate professionalism. It all looked so legitimate. It's funny, the name YouTube was registered on Valentine's Day, a day all about connection and trust. Kinda ironic, given how easily that trust can be twisted. So Sabine signed up. Why not? It was free. The course was held on Zoom every Tuesday at 7 p.m. The virtual classroom was filled with about 20 other faces, mostly people in her age bracket, 40 to 60, all with the same tentative questions lighting up the chat box. How does this work? Is it secure? How do you even start? Adrian was a phenomenal teacher. He was patient, his explanations were clear, and he never once sounded condescending. He explained the technology, he stressed the risks, and he repeated, like a mantra, never invest more than you can afford to lose. That was exactly the kind of responsible advice Sabine had been hoping to hear. It settled her nerves. This guy wasn't one of those get-rich-quick gurus. He was a proper advisor. The feeling of safety was so complete it was like being tucked into bed as a child. A complete absence of cognitive dissonance where every piece of information fits perfectly into the picture you want to see. After the third class, a private message popped up in her Zoom window. It was from Adrian. Ms. Weber, it read, you always ask such thoughtful questions. Have you ever considered a one-on-one consultation? Sabine felt a flush of pride. At her job, her expertise was expected, just part of the furniture. But out here, in this new, intimidating world, someone saw her as intelligent and discerning. It was validating. I offer a complimentary initial consultation to select members of my course, he continued, his face smiling warmly from his little box on her screen. Just an hour. We can go over your personal financial situation and sketch out a potential strategy. The consultation took place a week later, again over Zoom. Adrian sat in what looked like a chic, modern office. Bookshelves lined the wall behind him, and a framed certificate from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry hung just over his shoulder. You couldn't stage it better if you tried. He had this calm, reassuring energy. He listened intently as she told him about her 80,000 euros in savings, her paid-off condo, her stable income. He nodded, his expression one of professional admiration. You have a fantastic foundation, Sabine, he said, using her first name for the first time. With the right strategy, you could be financially independent in 5 years. It was the sweetest song she'd ever heard, and she didn't even realize she was being serenaded. He recommended a conservative entry. 5,000 euros into Bitcoin, but not all at once. It should be spread out over 3 months. He called it dollar cost averaging, a term Sabine actually recognized from her stock market books. It was a strategy to minimize risk by averaging out the purchase price over time. This wasn't the advice of a gambler. It was the advice of a planner. It sounded incredibly sensible. My grandmother used to say, never test the depth of the water with both feet. Adrian was basically saying the same thing, just with a fancy MBA-sounding label. I can even help you find the right exchange and walk you through the first steps, he offered, his tone magnanimous. Think of it as a complimentary service for my new consulting clients. His generosity was almost suspicious, but it was wrapped in such a professional package that it felt more like a perk than a lure. Sabine hesitated for just a moment. Was it really wise to trust a stranger with money matters, even just for guidance? As if he'd plucked the thought right out of her head, Adrian leaned in slightly. Now, don't misunderstand me, Sabine. You will always have 100% control over your funds. I would never ask for your passwords or direct access. I'm simply showing you how to operate the platforms and what to look for. Think of me as your free tech support. That was the line that did it. Free tech support. It was so harmless, so helpful. She was convinced. Sabine opened an account with the cryptocurrency exchange Adrian had recommended. It was called Crypto Vault. She'd never heard of it, but the website was impeccable. It was a sea of slick trading charts, scrolling tickers, and official-looking security certificates. There was even a physical address in Munich listed in the masthead. It looked more professional than her own bank's website. Following his patient, step-by-step instructions over the phone, she transferred the first 2,000 euros and bought her first fraction of a Bitcoin. And then a little miracle happened. The market was on an upswing. She watched, completely mesmerized, as her investment grew on the Crypto Vault dashboard. 2,000 euros became 2,100, then 2,300. Within a couple of weeks, it was sitting at 2,500 euros, a 500 euro gain. It felt intoxicating. Adrian had been right. A personal message from him popped up on her screen. You have a good hand, Sabine. See, I knew it. Are you interested in talking about some more advanced strategies? Oh, she wanted to. She had tasted blood. That initial nervousness had been replaced by a heady rush, a powerful emotional response that psychologists sometimes call the affect heuristic, when your feelings about something override your rational assessment of the risks. She felt good, so she assumed the situation was good. During their next consultation, Adrian introduced her to the worlds of yield farming and liquidity mining. The terms sounded agricultural and impossibly complex, like she was about to start growing digital rutabagas. But Adrian, in his masterful way, made it all sound simple. Think of it like a high-interest savings account, he explained. You're essentially lending your crypto assets to others through the platform, and in return, you get paid interest. Substantial interest. He then leaned in. his voice dropping to a more conspiratorial tone. He told her about an exclusive platform, one that was normally accessible only to institutional investors and a few select private clients. It offered, he said, a guaranteed 12% annual interest rate. Guaranteed. The only catch? The minimum investment was 25,000 euros. 25,000 euros. That was nearly a third of her life's savings. But 12% guaranteed? Her savings account at the bank was proudly delivering a whopping 0.01%. She'd make more in a month with this than she would in a century with her bank. It's a bit like the story of Charles Ponzi himself, the original pyramid scheme guy. His early investors in the 1920s actually did get their promised 50% returns. Their success stories were the bait that pulled in everyone else right before the whole thing imploded. "Let me think about it," Sabine said, her voice a little shaky. "Of course," Adrian replied smoothly. "Take your time, but I wouldn't wait too long. The available slots are limited, and a guaranteed rate like that could be lowered at any time." There it was, that gentle, manufactured urgency. It should have been a blaring red flag, a siren in the night. Even the alchemists of old knew that the promise of turning lead into gold often just left you with a lot of worthless lead. But Sabine was too far down the rabbit hole to see clearly. She was already doing the math in her head. 25,000 euros at 12%. That was 3,000 euros a year in pure profit. That was more than 2 of her monthly paychecks for doing nothing. The fear of missing out, which had started this whole journey, came roaring back, 10 times stronger. She wired the money, 25,000 euros, sent from her boring traditional bank account into the sleek, promising embrace of Crypto Vault. A wave of adrenaline and anxiety washed over her. It was the biggest financial risk she had ever taken in her entire life. For the first few weeks, everything was perfect. It was better than perfect. Every month, like clockwork, a deposit of exactly 1,000 euros in interest appeared in her Crypto Vault account. Adrian would send a congratulatory email, praising her wise decision. The positive reinforcement was constant. Sabine was euphoric. She felt like a genius, a financial visionary who had unlocked a secret the rest of the world was too timid to see. And because she was such a star pupil, Adrian soon came to her with another, even more exclusive opportunity. He spoke of a brand new cryptocurrency, something called Metacoin. It wasn't publicly traded yet, he explained in a hushed, excited tone. He had connections to the developers. This was a pre-sale, an opportunity for insiders to get in on the ground floor before the coin hit the major exchanges, and its value, he projected, would likely multiply by 10. Or more. Sabine had heard of these things. High risk, but astronomical potential. The minimum investment, he said, was 50,000 euros. He let that number hang in the air for a moment before graciously cutting it down. "But for you, Sabine, because you've been such a valued client, I can get you in for 35,000. He made it sound like he was doing her the world's biggest favor. 35,000 euros. That was nearly all of her remaining savings. A tiny, rational voice in the back of her mind squeaked in protest. "That's a lot of money," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Adrian's response was smooth as silk, a perfectly rehearsed bit of pop philosophy. "I understand," he said, "but remember, those who don't invest in the future are the ones who get left behind in the past. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. You're either on the train or you're watching it pull out of the station while others get rich." He knew exactly which buttons to push. He brought up the Tesla stock Shed told him she regretted not buying years ago. It was the final nudge she needed. The fear of missing out was a more powerful motivator than the fear of losing what she had. It's a classic psychological phenomenon, this escalation of commitment. You've already bet so much, so you feel you have to bet more to protect your initial stake, even when all signs point to folding. She transferred the 35,000 euros, and that is when the real nightmare began. The first hint that the beautiful house was made of paper came subtly. The metacoin in her portfolio was showing incredible gains. Her initial 35,000 had supposedly blossomed to 47,000 in just a few weeks. Her portfolio was so muscular, it looked like it was on steroids. She decided to test the system to withdraw a small portion of the profits. But when she clicked the withdraw button on the Crypto Vault site, an error message popped up. "Just a technical problem," Adrian explained breezily when she called him, a little panicked. "They're rolling out an update next week. Everything will be functional again then." A week came and went. The same error message. "So sorry, it's taking a bit longer than expected," he wrote in a message. "But don't worry, your money is completely safe. Here, look." He sent her a series of screenshots of her accounts. Everything looked normal. In fact, it looked better than normal. Her total portfolio value was now showing a stunning 89,000 euros. She calmed down. Technical glitches happen all the time, right? Even her own bank's online portal went down for maintenance. Then came the new requests. Adrian called, his tone now grave and serious. There was a problem, he said, with German financial regulators. They were cracking down on all crypto platforms. Crypto Vault, he explained, had to prove that all client funds had been properly declared for tax purposes. "What does that have to do with me?" Sabine asked, confused. She needed, he said, to provide a tax clearance certificate, and to get one, there was a 5,000 euro processing fee. He assured her that as soon as it was paid, she would have full access to all her money again. 5,000 euros for a fee. The amount was absurd. It was more than she'd paid for her first car. "Why should I have to pay for that?" she asked, her suspicion finally hardening into a real shield. His voice turned firm. "Because if you don't, your account will be frozen. It's a new EU regulation. I know it's annoying, but our hands are tied. As they say, a clever liar tells you 100 truths to sell you one lie. He'd built a mountain of credibility, and now he was hiding his deception behind it." That night, Sabine felt a cold dread creeping up her spine. 65,000 euros of her own money was trapped behind that error message. What if the account really was frozen? But this time, she didn't just take his word for it. She started digging. She searched online for this supposed new EU regulation. She found nothing. She typed Crypto Vault experiences into Google. The first few results were glowing 5-star reviews, but they all sounded strangely robotic, written in the same generic, overly enthusiastic tone. Fake. It's shockingly easy to build what's called a digital Potemkin village, a slick, professional-looking facade designed to hide the fact that there's absolutely nothing behind it. Then, scrolling further down, she found it. A single post on a little-known financial forum. The title was Crypto Vault Warning Scam. Her heart stopped. She clicked the link. A user described the exact same pattern. The initial profits, the friendly advisor, the technical problems that appeared out of nowhere, and then the sudden, inexplicable demands for more money for fees and taxes. Reading those words, Sabine's world didn't just crack. It shattered into a million pieces. The floor fell away, the walls collapsed, and she was left free, falling in the horrifying, silent realization of what she had done. The next day, her hands trembling, Sabine confronted him. "Is Crypto Vault real?" she asked over the phone, the words catching in her throat. Adrian's warm, reassuring tone was gone. In its place was a voice of ice. "Of course it's real," he answered, offended. "What kind of question is that? You can see your own portfolio, can't you? But I can't withdraw anything. I've already explained this to you. It's because of the regulatory audit. Pay the 5,000 euros and everything will go back to normal." This time, Sabine refused. She told him she wouldn't send another cent, and that she was going to the police. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet and menacing. "That would be incredibly unwise, Ms. Weber," he said softly. "You've been laundering money. Those are undeclared crypto gains. It's called tax evasion. If you go to the police, I will have no choice but to report you. Money laundering, tax evasion." The accusations were so wild, so out of left field, that Sabine couldn't even process them. "Your metacoin profits," he continued, his voice a venomous drip. "They originated from a blockchain mining pool in Bulgaria. An unverified source with no proper documentation, The German Federal Criminal Police Office takes a very keen interest in cases like that. It was all a lie, of course. A magnificently constructed, terrifying lie. But Sabine wasn't a crypto expert. The jargon sounded real, the threat felt potent. She was trapped. It's an old, cruel wisdom. The cruelest prisons are the ones we build for ourselves in our own minds. Adrian had just handed her the bricks and mortar. She was experiencing a kind of iatrogenic helplessness, a complete paralysis induced by the very person who was supposed to be her guide. What could she do? She paid the 5,000 euros, and of course, nothing changed. A week later, there was a new demand. 8,000 for a compliance review, then 12,000 for international transfer fees. With each payment, she fell deeper into the hole. She sold her ETFs. She cashed out her life insurance policy. She took out a loan against her paid-off condominium. Within 6 months, every penny she had ever saved was gone. 127,000 euros vanished into the digital ether. And then, when she had nothing left to give, they found a new use for her. In a late-night call, Adrian told her she had to work for them. She had to recruit new clients. She had to become the bait. Sabine was horrified. She was supposed to do to other women what had been done to her. "Don't forget," Adrian said coldly when she protested. "We have records of all your transactions. Money laundering, tax evasion, one phone call, and your life as you know it is over." It was pure extortion. She was forced to create a new identity online. Melanie Fisher, a sassy, successful crypto queen from Stuttgart. She posted photos. Adrian sent her generic pictures of luxury hotels, fancy dinners, exotic beaches. She wrote captions like, "Just made another 15K with Metacoin. DM me for tips. Financial freedom blessed." The shame was a physical weight. For every woman who took the bait, for every hopeful person she referred to Adrian, she received 500 euros, just enough to pay her rent and keep from being thrown out on the street. The break came from the one person she hadn't told, her sister, Claudia. Claudia was 3 years younger and worked in the cybercrime division of the state police. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Claudia stumbled upon the profile of Melanie Fisher. She was struck by an uncanny resemblance to Sabine. The smile, the posture. It wasn't identical, but it was close enough to be unsettling. As a professional, Claudia's instincts fired up. The photos looked staged. The lifestyle too perfect. She did a quick reverse image search, a neat trick where software analyzes a photo and scours the web for copies. Sure enough, some of Melanie's travel pics showed up on stock photo sites. It was a fake profile. At a family dinner the following Sunday, Claudia asked casually, "Hey, Sabine, do you know someone named Melanie Fisher from Stuttgart?" Sabine's face went white as a sheet. And then the dam broke. The months of terror, guilt, and suffocating anxiety came pouring out in a torrent of tears. She told Claudia everything. Claudia listened, her expression hardening not with judgment, but with professional fury. "Sabine, you are the victim here, not the perpetrator," she said firmly. "Everything he told you was a lie designed to control you." She convinced a still doubting Sabine to come with her and file a report as a witness. The prosecutor assigned to the case, a Dr. Marcus Herrmann, recognized the scheme immediately. "Crypto Vault is a phantom," he explained. "Servers in Moldova, registered in Belize, but the criminals are operating right here in Germany." Sabine, he learned, was one of over 100 known victims. The investigation ramped up quickly. With Sabine's full cooperation, they traced digital footprints and followed the money. The trail led to a luxury villa in Marbella, Spain. The Spanish police prepared for a coordinated raid, but when they smashed through the doors, the villa was empty, the servers were wiped, the bank accounts drained, the criminals were gone. Someone had tipped them off. For Sabine, it was the final, devastating blow. Her money was gone, and now so was any hope for justice. A year went by. The investigation was officially shelved. Sabine was slowly, painstakingly putting the pieces of her life back together. She'd found a new job. She was starting to sleep through the night again. Then, one evening, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown account on Telegram. The writing style was instantly recognizable. "Hello, Sabine. I hope you're doing well. We need to talk." It was him, Adrian. A cold tremor went through her, but this time it was mixed with a surge of adrenaline, not just fear. "I know you talked to the police," the message continued. "That was foolish. But I'm a generous man. I'm giving you one last chance." His generosity was truly a boundless resource, wasn't it? He went on to claim that she now owed him 200,000 euros for his troubles, the cost of relocating his business, establishing new identities, legal fees. All, he claimed, were her fault. He gave her 6 months to pay or he would publish everything. Her real identity, her forced role as Melanie Fisher, her complicity in the whole system. He'd send it all to her family, her friends, her new employer, but he had miscalculated. He was trying to play the same game with a completely different person. The Sabine of a year ago would have crumpled. This Sabine, forged in financial fire and psychological torment, did not. She called Claudia. "We play along," Claudia said, her voice grimly determined. "But this time, we're writing the script." What followed was a meticulous, nerve-wracking performance. Under the direct supervision of the police, Sabine re-engaged with her tormentor. She told him she would try to get the money, that she needed time to apply for loans. Adrian, whose real name the police now knew was Michael Steiner, was pleased. His arrogance, it turns out, was his greatest vulnerability. As the old saying goes, the proudest peacock is the easiest to pluck. He sent her detailed instructions for the transfer, directing her to a new platform called BitSecure, a carbon copy of the old crypto vault. He'd made a fatal error. In the year since he'd vanished, cybercrime units had significantly upgraded their capabilities. Claudia's department now worked hand in glove with international partners and had access to cutting-edge tracking software. When Sabine made the first transfer of 5,000 euro Suzing-marked cryptocurrency provided by the police, the investigators watched its journey in real time. They saw the funds move from the German exchange, get tumbled through a mixer in Moldova designed to obscure its path, and then get reconstituted in a wallet that was actively being used in Lisbon, Portugal. It's a funny thing about those crypto mixers. Criminals think they make money untraceable, but with enough computing power and a bit of luck, law enforcement can often follow the digital breadcrumbs right through the mess. 3 weeks later, Claudia stood in Sabanka's living room, her eyes shining. "We got him," she said. The arrest took place at a 5-star hotel on the Algarve coast. Michael Steiner, 42, originally from Austria, was taken into custody as he was checking out. In his suite, police found a small arsenal of criminal tools, 5 laptops, dozens of prepaid cell phones, and detailed records on over 300 victims. And the ultimate irony? Steiner had been living large and loud, flaunting his stolen wealth on a public Instagram profile. He posted pictures of his luxury cars, his designer watches, his infinity pool, all while his victims were losing their homes. The trial was held in Hanover that fall. Sabine was the prosecution's star witness. It was the first time she'd seen him in person since this all began. The man in the defendant's box was not the charming, confident crypto guru from the Zoom calls. He looked shrunken, gray, tired, and small. A pathetic, middle-aged man who avoided her gaze. Dozens of other victims from all over Europe testified, each telling a depressingly similar story. The final tally of the fraud was a staggering 47 million euros. The verdict was swift. 8 years in prison for aggravated fraud, money laundering, and extortion. The legal system had delivered its punitive justice, but for the victims, there was little in the way of restorative justice. The 47 million euros was gone spent, hidden or locked away in crypto wallets to which Steiner claimed to have lost the keys. Sabine never saw a single euro of her money again. Today, Sabine lives under her own name again. After selling her condominium to clear the massive debts she'd incurred, she started over. At 54, with no savings to her name, she found a new purpose. She now works at a consumer protection center, counseling other victims of fraud. Her personal tragedy has become her public mission. The most insidious thing about these scams, she often says in her workshops, is that they exploit real human desires, the wish for a secure future, the fear of being left behind, and our natural inclination to trust people who appear to be experts. Michael Steiner is still in prison, but his methods live on. New platforms, with new names and new Adrians, pop up every single day. The machinery of the scam constantly adapting and evolving. Sabine's story serves as a critical warning. She teaches people to recognize the red flags that she once missed, the promise of high, guaranteed returns with no risk, the pressure to make fast decisions with phrases like "this offer won't last," the appearance of sudden, exorbitant fees required to withdraw your own money, and the isolation tactics that make you feel special while separating you from anyone who might offer a dose of skepticism. Her journey into that digital labyrinth was harrowing, a descent into a nightmare crafted from greed and code. But in finding her way out, she didn't just reclaim her own identity. She became a light for others who are lost in the same darkness, her voice a quiet but powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. She may have lost her fortune, but she found a strength she never knew she possessed, transforming her deepest wound into her greatest purpose.